don't buy digital. Now, I've heard some funny people over the years. They're like, I'm a digital collector. What are you collecting? Licenses to have access to games for a temporary amount of time? Now, I won't lie. I've bought digital games before. I still buy digital games sometimes. Like, for example, I was talking about this again in the last video where sometimes there's games that go for like $30+ for the Xbox 360, but they always go on sale for like $5 or less on, Xbox Series and all that. So it's like, hey, it's backwards compatible. It's literally $5, whereas a physical copy would cost $30. It's cool, I'll just buy this one time. And then down the line, if I'm like, oh, I absolutely need that game in my collection, then I could go out and buy it. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's such a niche situation and it's such a niche case where unless it's a situation where, the physical version is so expensive that you would be better off buying it digitally, I would always 100% of the time say go buy physical because some people are like, what's the convenience factor? What? The convenience factor of not having to get up off your butt and change the disc? It takes like 5 seconds. And the only reason I say this is because just think, what happens if your account gets shut down, when they shut the store down inevitably, and just think about the Wii U, right? That console is literally only 12 years old, and yet they shut down the eShop last year. That means that eShop only lasted for 11 years, so those digital games are only available for that amount of time, and granted, you can still re-download the games that you purchased, but they even already confirmed that that's not going to be a feature long term. So and again, it's one of those things we were talking about earlier where Nintendo games tend to be more expensive. So your whole Wii U library is just going to go bye-bye. Same thing with 3DS. Gonna go bye-bye. Granted, there is other means of acquiring digital media that we're not going to talk about in this video because I'm not going to advocate for one thing or another. That's completely up to each individual person as to how they acquire their games. But when we're just talking from an official means, you're buying a license to a game. We've already seen this with Ubisoft where they've been delisting DLC for certain Assassin's Creed games and stuff like that, and they were even trying to get to the point of where even if you purchased it, you couldn't have access to it because again, when you read the EULAs and the terms and conditions and all that, it literally says in there, hey, we can take this away from you at any time. You're just buying a license to it. And if you don't believe me, go and read that stuff. Read the end user license agreements. Go read the terms and conditions. They literally say in there, hey, yeah, this isn't a permanent service, and if we want to take this from you, we can. And again, if you lose access to your account, well, that's it. Whereas with all the games that I have on my shelf, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I lose access to my account, if I buy a different system. It literally doesn't matter. Well, I know in the case of digital, you can take it to other systems, but you know what I mean. It doesn't matter if it's on the same account, if I set the settings, whatever, it's put in the disc and play. Simple as that. And furthermore, even after games get delisted off the digital storefronts, which happens all the time nowadays, that data is still on the disc. So while sure, during the new generation, there's a lot of times where hey, even when you put a disc into your console, you have to go through the whole download and installation process. But that's not the point that matters. The point that matters is, again, once the games get delisted off a digital storefront, that's it. You can't ever play it again. Whereas when you have the disc, even if it's a situation like Cyberpunk 1.0, where if you're not able to update the game, it is a little broken on that original Xbox One and PS4 disc, at least you have the data there, and in 99.9% of cases, that isn't actually how broken most games are on the disc. Sure, some games are incomplete on the disc, or aren't as polished, I should say, but at the very least, at least the data is there, and at least you can play something. At least there's something tangible there to experience the game, and for the most part, most games that are released on disc are actually complete, and that Cyberpunk 1.0 example is a very niche or rare example.